Every year, thousands of pet birds are being brought into veterinary clinics for reasons due to malnutrition. It is found that 90% of the cases of birds who are brought into a vet clinic, their illness stemmed from malnutrition. It was found in a study done on 135 pet birds that 67% of pet birds have a vitamin A deficiency, 98% of pet birds had less than the required amount of calcium needed in their diet, and 97% of pet birds had less than the required amount of vitamin D3. The reason why so many birds have improper nutrition is because it is a very common diet for many pet birds is an all-seed diet. Ever since birds became a popular pet, it was thought that birds needed to eat seeds. Seeds are important in their diet, but it should not be the sole factor of their diet. It started off with larger parrots being only fed sunflower seeds, thinking that that was all they needed. Smaller birds ate only millet. This caused some serious issues, and birds who should have lived 30, 40 years only lived up to maybe 7 or 8 years. It is very important that we understand what our birds would be getting in the wild. Their nutrition would consist of different fruits, vegetables, grasses, figs, roots, all kinds of different things. So we should try and duplicate this in their diet. A lack of proper nutrition can cause many things other than just illness. It can cause bad habits, it can cause boredom, and it can be psychologically damaging. A bird who in the wild would normally be eating lots of fruits, vegetables, grasses, they're always foraging for food. They spend many hours of their day looking for their next meal. These animals also spend a lot of time playing with their food. As children, we were always told not to play with our food, but this is something that we should encourage in our pet birds. It is very important for their psychological well-being that we encourage our birds to play with foods. We should give them foods that have a good texture, a good color. They're very visual, they have very good eyesight, so we need bright oranges, reds in their diet to help encourage them to eat these healthy foods that are very, very important to their well-being. We need to add foods to their diet that are going to have the proper nutrients, the proper minerals and vitamins that they would have in the wild. If it is difficult, it's difficult for most birds to introduce a new food into their diet. So it can be very helpful to hang the fruits or vegetables from the top of the cage, to hide it around the cage in different toys, let them explore, let them find these foods on their own, and it's definitely important for us to allow them to know that these foods are safe for them to eat. If a bird isn't getting the proper type of food that they can kind of interact with, they're not stimulating their natural habits. These birds aren't going to be playing around with their feet picking up the food, they're not going to be nibbling at it, they're not going to be picking their carrots up off the tray on the bottom of the cage, they're not going to be doing the things that a bird would normally be doing in the wild. This can cause boredom. Boredom can cause certain things such as feather plucking. Feather plucking can be caused from over-preening, from say a bird who's bored and spends a lot of time preening themselves rather than exercising and climbing around, exploring their environment. Feather plucking can result in infection. When all the feathers are plucked out, it can result in feathers not growing back because of the infection in the follicles. These feather plucking can cause a loss of their flight feathers, so these birds can no longer fly and they won't be able to get the proper exercise they need. Boredom can also cause a bird to become aggressive. When a bird is not able to physically assert itself in the way it should, it's going to have a lot of pent-up just kind of energy that it needs in order to keep it active. Most caged birds are not being allowed to fly around for hours and hours a day, so these are the birds who are really going to be getting bored and starting to act out. This type of diet, all-seed diet, can also result in other bad habits such as selective eating. When a bird selectively chooses what it wants to eat, it's going to be eating sunflower seeds, or it's only going to eat millet, or it's just going to eat the kind of seeds it wants. And this leads to an even greater amount of malnutrition. This bird isn't going to be getting the different kinds of seeds that will balance out how much fat it's getting, how much energy from each seed. So it's really just going to be doing itself more harm than good. Pet birds can show many, many symptoms for malnutrition. These can include an unthriftiness of the feathers, loss of feather, and feather loss is very important in pet birds because birds use their feathers as a form of thermoregulation. If a bird can't use its feathers to puff up to, lose heat, gain heat, then it's going to get ill very, very quickly because of overheating or underheating. If you're trying to breed your birds, a bird who doesn't have as many vitamins as it should, the right kind of minerals, and especially calcium, might have troubles fertilizing its eggs. These eggs might have reduced hatchability. The chicks might not be able to break free in the way that they should. You can have soft shell eggs as well that aren't going to be as strong, so they're going to break before the chick has an actual chance to develop. You will also notice in your bird's lethargy. You might notice that your bird isn't eating as much. Anorexia could occur. Your bird is going to be really sluggish and slow. These are all some symptoms to look out for. But when you notice that your bird is ill, it's normally almost too late. It's very important to get them into the vet right away to make sure that he can figure out what the problem is. If the problem does end up being malnutrition, it's very important that you talk to your vet and work with your vet to decide what vitamins and minerals you should be supplementing through drops in the water, powders on the fruits and vegetables if your bird will eat fruits and vegetables. It's important that your vet helps you figure this out, because not only is a lack of vitamins or minerals bad, but also an excess of vitamins and minerals can be very bad as well. This can result in vitamin toxicity. If a bird were to have too much vitamin A, their liver could shut down. Without the right amounts of vitamins and minerals, of course, their liver could also shut down. So it's very important that you work with your vet to get the perfectly balanced diet for your pet bird. Because of the many deaths of the pet birds and the reduced lifespan, a bird might have a life expectancy of 30, 35, 40 years. It might only live 7 to 10 years because of its malnutrition, because of all the health problems it's going to cause, the failing organs. All these are going to contribute to its not so extended life. So proper nutrition in pet birds for their lifespan, their happiness, for your happiness if you have an aggressive bird or a bird who's costing you hundreds in vet bills, is very important. We must make sure that we give our pet birds the absolute best nutrition that we can give them, because it is our duty as a pet owner to give our bird what they deserve, to give them what they would have gotten in the wild in their natural environment, and just to give them the absolute best life possible.